Bahashim Akwadash, double honors to the elder apostles and elder bishops of GMS, including the elders that came before them that taught us this truth. Shalom and salutations to all the brothers out pushing the word of truth and its sincerity, the hopeful elect tabernacle of David, to the Akwat that are listening and learning, being a pillar of rest, the 144,000, the one-third, the hopeful elect of Israel, and the brother Yahshua. I'm back with the WW3 Daily Update. Shalom and salutations to you all. Ezekiel 38 and 7, be thou prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. So basically that means to make sure that all your allies, right, have what they need to go to war. Okay? Who is thou? Magog, which goes directly to Russia. There's Persia, which is Iran. Okay. Ethiopia, Libya. Gomer is Turkey. Syria, Togarmah. And many people with thee. Who would that be? Who are the many people with thee? Okay. Well, who is BRICS? Brazil, does it not? Brazil, India, China, BRICS, South Africa. It's BR. Brazil, Russia. Okay, there's Russia. Okay, so be thou. Thou is talking about the top of the chain, Russia. And if Russia is in BRICS, they're allies, are they not? Of course they are. Now, where's Syria? There's Syria. Is Russia not down in Syria right now preventing the Assad regime from getting a regime changed? Of course they are. Okay? There's Syria. They are. Okay? Now, let's go to the dragons of Arabia that will come out with many chariots, right? So the Arabs are aligned with Russia, whether you understand that or not. And it's all going to flesh itself out, and we're going to see, right? All together. So lucky, bear with me. Where is it? Right here. Start at 28, 2nd Ezra 15 and 28. Behold, an horrible vision, and the appearance thereof from the east, where the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots, and the multitude of them. Right there, the dragons of Arabia. Where are the Arab nations at? Right there, surrounding Israel. Okay, so what am I getting at? Okay, well, the Arabs have a lot. The Carmanians, who are the Persians, the Iranians, are working with who? 2nd Ezra 15 and 30. Also, the Carmanians, the Iranians, raging with wrath, shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood, and with great power shall they come and join battle with them. With who? With the dragons. So you got the Arabs are together with the Iranians. Everybody knows that Iran and Russia are together. We just read it. Let's go get it again. Okay, so all of these are allies is the point. Okay, who's that? That's Iran, that's Russia. Okay, so if the Persians or if the Carmanians or the Iranians are together with the Arabs, are they not together with the Russians too? Of course they are. What does BRICS stand for? Brazil, Russia. Where are we going with this? We're going here. Panic as Brazil, as in BRICS, unveils plan to arm Who's that? The Arabs. To arm the Arabs? Where is Brazil getting these weapons? From Russia. This is huge. So let's watch this. Take it away. Oh, this is an Open-Minded Thinker show 6 hours ago. They're getting better, open-minded. It was a little questionable, but now they're getting better.
The tension between Brazil and Israel has escalated, with Brazil indicating a possible halt to diplomatic relations and even considering arming Palestinian freedom movements in response to what it perceives as excessive violence, resulting in significant loss of life, estimated at 30,000 people. This development follows U.S. efforts to mediate the dispute between the two countries. The conflict arose when the Brazilian president likened the actions of the Israeli military in Gaza to the Holocaust during World War II, which resulted in widespread condemnation and strained relations between the nations. In fact, Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel expressed his solidarity with Brazil as tension sours. Our commitment is to provide factual news and geopolitical analysis.
We already know who Cuba. Remember the Cuban Missile Crisis? Those were Russia's missiles.
Please share this content to stay informed.
Going back to what? Arm your allies. That's what we're watching here. Russia is... you think Brazil is going to give them weapons to Hamas, or is it indirectly coming from Russia?
And subscribe for updates on Palestine-related developments. The situation became more heated when Israeli authorities threatened Brazil with sanctions. In response, the Brazilian government, which is aligned with BRICS and supports Palestine, vowed to take strong actions in defense of human rights in Gaza. Currently, Brazil has recalled its ambassadors from Israeli-occupied territories and warned of further measures if the Israeli government continues to act outside international law. Previously, Israeli authorities had banned Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva from entering the country after he equated the military actions in Gaza to the Holocaust. Israel's foreign minister labeled Lula's remarks as a serious anti-Semitic attack and reprimanded the Brazilian ambassador at the Israeli National Holocaust Museum in Jerusalem.
Não existe nenhum outro momento histórico. Aliás, existiu quando Hitler resolveu matar os judeus. É muito engraçado. É muito engraçado. Quando eu vejo o mundo rico anunciar que está parando de dar contribuição para a questão humanitária aos palestinos, eu fico imaginando qual é o tamanho da consciência política dessa gente e qual é o tamanho do coração solidário dessa gente, que não está vendo que na faixa de Gaza não está acontecendo uma guerra, mas um genocídio.
The Brazilian head of state's comment, which was made with a serious tone, prompted a strong response from Benjamin Netanyahu, who criticized his counterpart for trivializing the Holocaust and crossing a boundary. However, Celso Amorim, former foreign affairs minister and a special advisor to the Brazilian president, described Israel's reaction as unwarranted and likely to further isolate the country. Indeed, such reactions from Israel seem contradictory, especially considering the grave accusations made against the occupation's actions. Many independent observers find the concept of an occupation force defending itself to be illogical. They argue that only the occupied population has the right to seek defense, and evidence suggesting that the occupation has supported Hamas to prevent the establishment of a Palestinian state adds weight to this argument. The Brazilian president's remarks align with ongoing diplomatic tensions. When the crisis erupted, there were reports of occupation military leaders threatening to cut off essential supplies to Gaza, even referring to some people as human animals. Such actions potentially violate international law, as denying basic necessities to a population under attack is considered a war crime. Moreover, the contradiction of targeting both Palestinian fighters and civilians has raised moral concerns that the occupation has struggled to address. Additionally, The United States, despite advocating for the right to defend against superior forces in Europe, has faced criticism for not intervening to broker a ceasefire and end the crisis in Gaza. Despite global outcry, the United States has vetoed attempts at the UN to address the situation.
Numerous parties engage in sensitive negotiations. This is not the time for this resolution, which jeopardizes these efforts. Colleagues, I communicated our concerns publicly and privately over the last several weeks. We've submitted numerous rounds of edits. All were ignored. And so for that reason, the United States has offered an alternative resolution that would do what this text does not. Pressure Hamas to take the hostage deal that is on the table and help secure a pause that allows humanitarian assistance to reach Palestinian civilians in desperate need.
The world is growing increasingly weary of the US's approach to preventing a meaningful resolution to the conflict in Gaza. It seems the US is banking on the defeat of the Palestinian freedom movement on the battlefield. But this strategy appears unlikely to succeed as the resistance continues to pose threats even within supposedly liberated city centers. The ongoing war, coupled with the US's utilization of bureaucratic obstacles within UN processes, is proving devastating for peace efforts in Palestine. This action suggests to the world, including Brazil, that the US may have ulterior motives in the conflict beyond defeating Palestinian freedom fighters. Some speculate, without concrete evidence, that the US military-industrial complex and the occupation's arms industry may be profiting from the crisis and prefer a resolution on the battlefield rather than at the negotiation table. Others suggest that the occupation's military is seizing the opportunity of the crisis to showcase its new military technology as a live advertisement for potential buyers, both domestically and internationally, including within the Arab world. Regardless of these speculations, the undeniable reality is that civilians are suffering the consequences of the conflict. Given this situation, Brazil has some leverage to question Israel's actions, especially as some Palestinians accuse Israel of having ulterior motives such as accessing Gaza's gas reserves rather than genuinely combating terrorism. While Brazil's options to impose costs on the occupation are limited, President Lula may choose to take certain actions to serve as a deterrent to the occupation's continued aggression in Gaza. For instance, Brazil could fulfill its promises of recognition to Palestine, similar to its actions in 2010, when it recognized and mediated a peace treaty between the occupation and Palestinian freedom fighters. This move sparked similar diplomatic disputes at the time, with President Lula da Silva at the helm. At the time, occupation authorities expressed disappointment at Brazil's decision to recognize a Palestinian state within the 1967 borders, viewing it as undermining peace negotiation efforts. This reaction was prompted by a public letter from the Brazilian president to Mahmoud Abbas, the Palestinian president, wherein Brazil officially recognized Palestine as an independent state within the 1967 borders. The decision was made in response to a personal request from Abbas on November 24th of that year, as documented on the Foreign Ministry's website. Drawing from this historical precedent, Lula may once again consider recognizing the state of Palestine and providing support to Palestinian soldiers for defending their territories. However, this move could lead to renewed diplomatic tensions and potential military...
Just second. Salakia. Yeah, buddy. Where are we at? Let me see how far we are.
Actions by the occupation, particularly against Brazilian interests in the South American region and beyond. In response to this potential scenario, the United States is taking action. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has embarked on his first trip to Brazil, beginning in Brasilia and continuing to Rio de Janeiro for the Group of 20 summit, followed by a visit to Argentina to meet with new President Javier Milei. For Blinken, this trip to Latin America was initially seen as an opportunity to strengthen ties with two significant leaders, diverging from his frequent visits to the Middle East. However, the turmoil in that region unexpectedly follows him to Latin America after Lula sharply criticized Israel's actions in Gaza following the announcement of his meeting with Blinken. Brazil may also consider revoking its recognition of the occupation state, breaking away from the goodwill established since 1947 and aligning against the occupation. This could legally permit the Brazilian government to support the opposition in Palestine, potentially leading to peace or a negotiated settlement. However, such actions by Lula could pose significant challenges for Brazil, as the US might covertly intervene to escalate tensions in the country, or even attempt to overthrow Lula's government. Additionally,
You know they're going to do that.
Brazil, home to one of the largest Jewish populations in Latin America, might face internal unrest in response to such decisions. Nevertheless, these potential repercussions might compel occupation authorities to reconsider their approach. The president of Brazil may also consider severing trade ties with the occupation.
Amanda, right there. As you can see, this thing is spiraling out of control. All right. Now, we already know what the hell is going on. Okay. How is Brazil getting involved in something going on way over in the east, right? Well, don't you understand that everybody's going to wind up over in the Middle East? Joel 3 and 2, I will gather all the nations and bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat. There I will enter into judgment against them concerning my people, my inheritance, Israel, the real Israel, not the Israelis. This is Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, Seminole Indians, the speckled bird, whom they have scattered among the nations as they divided up my land. Who is I? That's the one that the world ignorantly calls God, whose name is Yahweh. Will gather, let's see, will gather the armies of the world into the Middle East, the valley of Jehoshaphat or Jehoshaphat. That's what we're watching. Why is Brazil getting involved in the Middle East? They have allies. Really, God, Yahweh, is erecting, if you will, an ambush. Got to get them all into the valley, the strike zone. So with that, we're going to end it there. We'll see you tomorrow. We hope that the electorate